All right, lesson 3.6 is about the slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines, and our objectives are to relate slope in parallel lines and relate slope in perpendicular lines. So first, our key concepts. Slope of parallel lines. If two non-vertical lines are parallel, their slopes are equal. Parallel lines have the same slope. So if the slopes of two distinct non-vertical lines are equal, then the lines are parallel. So it works both ways. You can say, oh, I know these lines are parallel, so I know their slopes are equal. You can say, oh, I know these slopes are equal, so their lines are parallel. And then any two vertical lines are parallel as well. Okay, so then we've got to talk about perpendicular lines. If two non-vertical lines are perpendicular, the product of their slopes is -1. If the slopes of the two lines have a product of -1, then the lines are perpendicular. Again, it works both ways. Okay, and then any horizontal and vertical line are perpendicular. So that first one says if the product of the slopes is -1, they're perpendicular. I like to remember that the slopes are opposite reciprocal. Okay, that's just a little side note. I think it's easier than figuring out that their product is -1. So like, for example, if I know the slope of one line is 3, then the perpendicular line, I gotta make it opposite. So this was +3, I'm gonna switch it to negative. And then the reciprocal of 3/1 is 1/3. So flip it upside down, change the sign. That's all I do. If it's easier for you to remember that their product is -1, that works too. It's just sometimes I think that's a little bit easier. Okay, let's jump in with some examples. Determining whether lines are parallel. So, are these lines parallel? Y equals -5x plus 4 and x equals -5y plus 4. Okay, this first equation, y equals -5x plus 4, is in slope-intercept form. So what we're going to do is write the other equation in slope-intercept form to figure this out. So if x equals -5y plus 4, I'm going to subtract 4 to each side, and then I'm going to divide by -5. So remember this is like a 1 over 5 plus -4, because we've got a -4 here, over -5. So -1/5 x, and then -4 over -5 just turns to +4 over 5. Okay, so the line that we just solved, x equals -5y plus 4, we solved that and got this in slope-intercept form, and we want to know the slope. The slope is always the number in front of x in slope-intercept form, so the slope is -1/5. In this first line that was already in slope-intercept form, the number in front of x is -5, so the slope is -5. These lines are not parallel because their slopes are not equal. Simple as that. Okay, let's keep working with this. Number 2, writing the equations of parallel lines. Write an equation in point slope form for the line that is parallel to 6x minus 3y equals 9 and contains the point -8. First thing we're going to do is rewrite this original equation in slope-intercept form. So first I'm going to subtract 6x from each side. So then I have -3y equals -6x plus 9. And then I'm going to divide each side by -3. So 6 divided by negative 6 divided by negative 3, is positive 2x. Positive 9 divided by negative 3 is minus 3. And so then the slope in this case would be 2, because that's the number next to x. Now, we're going to write an equation for a new line that goes through this point. So, point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So now we're going to plug in what we know. I know that the slope is 2. Substitute 2 for m, and then the point is negative 5, negative 8. So x1 is negative 5, y1 is negative 8. Two negatives make a positive, so y plus 8 equals 2 times x plus 5. And there you go. All we did was take the slope from this first problem and use the point, plug it in point slope form, solve it until we have a line. Okay, what you're going to do here is determine if these two lines are parallel in both A and B. So you're going to have to rearrange this so that it's in slope-intercept form in both problems. This first one in both problems is already in slope-intercept form, so after you rearrange the second one, you'll be able to figure out what the slopes are and tell me if those are parallel or not, and why. Then it says write an equation for a line parallel to y equals negative x plus 4 and contains the point negative 2, 5. Remember, this is like a negative 1, and this would be just like this example 2 that we did up here. So follow that process to solve that. Okay. We're going to keep going with example 3 here. Example 3 says writing equations for perpendicular lines. So now we're shifting gears to perpendicular. Write an equation for the line to the perpendicular to 5x plus 2y equals 1 that contains the point 10, 0. So first we're going to rearrange this equation so it's in slope-intercept form. So we're going to subtract 5x from each side. So we want to get y by itself. So negative 5x plus 1. Then we're going to divide each side by 2 so we can get y by itself. So negative 5 divided by 2, x plus 1 divided by 2. So right here, negative 5 over 2 is the number in front of x, so that's our slope, negative 5 over 2. Okay, now slopes of perpendicular lines have a product of negative 1. Okay, so we know that negative 5 over 2 times whatever the slope of the perpendicular line is negative 1. So to solve for m, we have to multiply by the reciprocal, so flip it over, 2 over 5. We're going to multiply by negative 2 over 5. So negative 1 times negative 2 over 5 is actually positive 2 over 5. So our slope for our perpendicular line is 2 over 5. Okay. If you were using the opposite reciprocal idea, negative 5 over 2, change the sign, positive, flip the fraction, positive 2/5. It's up to you what works best. Okay, then we're going to use point slope form, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1 to write an equation for the new line. And remember, we're using the point 10, 0. I'm just going to write that off to the side. So I know that the slope is 2 over 5. We're using the point 10, 0, so we're going to plug those things in. Slope is 2 over 5. X1 is 10. Y1 is 0. So we don't need that 0 anymore. Y equals 2/5 times x minus 10. Okay, then you have one more problem that you're going to do. It says write an equation for the line perpendicular to 5y minus x equals 10 and contains the point 15, negative 4. So you're going to go through the same steps as this example 3. So first, find the slope of the line you have, then find the slope of the perpendicular line, then use point slope form to write the equation. Okay, so go ahead and get started on those. Make sure you're checking in with me. If you have questions, please ask, and go